A little bit of chaos in the house at the moment, but hopefully everyone is going to leave each other alone long enough for me to do this video today. My kids are disagreeing with each other about something, so I need to close the door. Okay, I'm back. So today we're going to be, as you see here, working on some things with digital methodologies to practice the kind of thing that you will be focusing on in your module work and your digital methodology project. So what I'm going to show you today is not going to be your project. In other words, I still want you to do your own project, but I also think that whatever project you've chosen, it's good to know this stuff that I'm going to take you through today. So I want everyone to try to do what I'm going to show you and walk you through. I'd recommend working through it with me as I go through it, and I've uploaded some files in Canvas to let you do that, and I'll talk about all those. I'll show you what to do with that and show you how I prepared them and so on as we do that. Hope everyone's doing all right. It's another nice sunny warm day in June. A few clouds. I wonder if it's going to rain later. I think I need to water the garden. Definitely need to refill the bird feeder, so that's exciting. I mean, it's exciting that the birds are actually eating the bird seed that I'm putting out. Or somebody is. I hope it's the birds. I have not seen that many squirrels. No raining. Might rain tomorrow. Okay. Might rain tomorrow and Thursday, so that's good. But I'll go ahead and water the garden. Still showing 0 viewers. Oh, 3 viewers. There you are. Hello. So, always good to see you all. See your numbers popping up anyway. And as usual, if you have something to say, you can, or something to say or ask, you can chime in on the live stream channel or on the Twitch chat. The live stream chat channel in Slack is probably a little better, but because that's more durable. But either one's fine. I should see either one of those. So 1 second, my wires are tangled down here. Fix this. I'm actually thinking about reconfiguring my whole green screen setup here. I got a few more poster boards. I'm thinking about setting this up so I can actually stand in front of the camera. That's how I'm used to teaching, and that the sitting is okay too, but I don't know, it's just kind of nice to be able to stand, and if I can set up the camera right, I can probably have more space to move around and point to things if I need to. But as it is right now, it's okay, I guess. Great, so 3 viewers, I'll go ahead and get started. Obviously this will be archived for everyone else, but if you're watching it live, you will have a chance to work through these things as I'm working through them, and then if you get stuck or have a question, you can ask. So if you are watching, I liked yesterday when those of you who are watching said hi, so if you're watching, you can say hi in the chat channel just to let me know who's out there. But again, whenever you're watching, hopefully you'll be able to work through these steps on your own. So let me talk about these steps. So I'm going to switch over my browser. So let me my OBS thing. Oh, so Jenna just posted a question in general chat. So, and Samantha, hello, both of you. So Jenna, yes, I do want you to share some things, but let me kind of work through it a bit, right? And let me show you what to share, and then yeah, I'd love for you to share some things. That's what's coming. So let me get to that. So the idea is that in week 4, day 2, the notes that I have here, oops, let me switch my title there. That's the segment I'm on. The idea is to practice some things using To Kill a Mockingbird. And of the methodological modules, 2 of them really do focus on studying artifacts of culture, so studying things that exist, cultural texts, you might say. And hi, Brittany. So yeah, good. Good to see more people. So today I just chose To Kill a Mockingbird. Whenever I've done this class, I choose a different movie or book to focus on. I thought To Kill a Mockingbird seemed appropriate right now, both because it's readily available, and also because it's somewhat topical. It deals with racial injustice, and that's something that we're all thinking about right now. and paying attention to, which is good. So this is the, all right, good to see you. So this is the idea. I've got two things prepared, and these are focusing on the Visual Cultural Analytics module. I can't figure out a good name for that because I want to get too much into the name, but I also don't want to make it too long. But it's either Cultural Analytics or Visual Image Analysis or Image Visualization or Visual Cultural Analytics, which is very, I feel, mealy mouthed, but you'll see what it is once we get into it. That's kind of the point today. I want you to see what these things actually are by seeing the process that you need to go to. So again, I want to take you through some work with that, and then also take you through some work with text analysis, and I'll give you some things to try with this. So if you haven't already, if you look at the notes here, there's a link to the zip file of To Kill a Mockingbird, and what I've done is I've gone through To Kill a Mockingbird and I've extracted one frame or one still image for every second. So every time it goes forward a second, I've taken a picture and then saved that to my computer. Now I didn't literally do that. I told a computer program to do that, but it created 7,752 images of this movie that then let me understand this movie at a different level. Let me watch it in a different way. I actually cannot remember if I've seen the whole movie. I feel like it looks familiar, but I don't have a very clear memory of watching it. So I am going to watch it, and and you should too. I mean, it's out there. You can watch it different streaming services, but I found it for download here on archive.org. I guess I should note that this is probably not legal for them to share it this way, or for this person to share it this way. But it's here, and you're not going to get in trouble for downloading it. So if you feel like it, you're welcome to. Looks like other people have uploaded it too. It is a movie that's in copyright, I'm pretty sure. So it's you're not allowed to just share it like this. But somebody did, and it's here, so you might as well. Archive.org is a great resource, by the way, a great cultural resource. They have tons of stuff in here. It's very useful. And sometimes they take a pretty liberal approach to copyright, and that's fine. But anybody can upload anything to it. So this is just some random person, I guess, that uploaded this. And usually, I was scrolling down to see if it says who uploaded it, and usually it does, but maybe, oh yeah, okay, so Pippo. So Pippo has taken that risk by sharing this, but if you're worried about it, you can download it with the Tor client or something, but I downloaded it and I'm not worried. You can also probably find it on YouTube if you look the right way, although sometimes those are weird, they don't work right. And you can also just watch it legit for whatever on various streaming services, I'm sure. So let me show you what I did to this. I downloaded it from here, and I'm going to switch my display here to show you what I did. Sorry about the tunnel. Because I wanted to show you some things on my actual computer, my desktop. So I have a Linux computer here, and Linux is a different kind of operating system. So you probably have either Mac or Windows, maybe a Chromebook, and then Linux is another kind of thing. And Linux is open source and free, and so it works on a lot of computers. You don't have to really think about the computer that much. There's usually a version of it that'll work fine for you. This is Linux Mint, which is that's the distribution that I use, the version of Linux that I use. Linux Mint is very beginner friendly if you're new to Linux. So if you want to try it out, if you wanted to try Linux, I would recommend Linux Mint. I used to recommend Ubuntu, but I don't anymore. Linux Mint is easier and lighter weight than Ubuntu, even though it actually is derived from Ubuntu, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense to me totally. But anyway, that's what I'm using. And so I just want to explain that's why my desktop looks a little different than you might be used to seeing things. The good thing, though, is that if you have a Mac, the things that I'm going to do here are, like, if you have a Mac, you have a command line that works very similarly to the one that I have in my Linux computer. If you have Windows, you can do a lot of the same things, although sometimes you need slightly different syntax. Now, you don't have to do this step at all. I just wanted to show you what I did, and if you are interested in extracting images from a movie, this is what I would recommend you do. You know what? So there is a risk. If I start running this, it's going to actually ramp up my CPU like crazy and might make the stream get weird. So I'm not going to actually run this for very long. I'll just show you very quickly what what this is. So I have a folder here of files, and this one, mockingbird.mp4, is that video I downloaded. It's about a gigabyte. Okay, thanks. All right. Mail, I guess, that's just junk mail. But somebody thought I needed that. Okay, so mockingbird.mp4, which you can see here, that's the file. It's a gigabyte. I'm going to use a tool called ffmpeg, and it has some commands that you add after it. So in a command line environment, you use software by typing its name usually, and then you add flags or arguments. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just, I'm showing you what I did. In other words, I've kind of done the hard part for you, and so I'm letting you do the more interesting stuff with the Kill a Mockingbird. But I wanted to show you what the hard part is. So there's a couple of different name value pairs. So -I is a flag that says the next thing you get is going to be the file name, and the next thing I gave it here was the file name. That's the file to work on. So I means input. So ffmpeg, I'm saying ffmpeg, take mockingbird.mp4 as input, and then do some things with it. So -r means rate, so like the rate of extraction that I'm going to be asking it to do. And if you say 1, that's 1 frame per second. 12 would be 12 frames per second. I believe the file I have is 30 frames, is actually filmed at, or the film is recording at, the media file is being rendered at 30 frames per second, but you don't want that many because that will fill up your computer very quickly. And then you have to create what's called a naming template for it. So as it extracts these, how is it going to name these? It can't name each file the same thing, or else it would keep getting overwritten every time. So I'm creating a little placeholder here. The %05d.jpg just means every time you make a new one, generate a new 5-digit number for the next one, and then go on. So this is a command. I'll just run this really briefly just to show you what it looks like. And no, it didn't work. Great. So, oh yeah, so that's because I moved some things around. Actually, I said great because I actually did not want this to run because I already did this and it took forever. But you can see this, ffmpeg started working. What it told me here was that it was not actually able to write into the frames directory, which is because I moved that directory. I forgot I had moved that. So, but that's to say that there's a pretty complex operation that ffmpeg is capable of doing, and if you direct it the right way, it can do something that would be enormously time-consuming to do manually. It can do very quickly automatically. So even though it took this about, I want to say it was around 30 or 45 minutes to do this particular video file, I mean, that's a long time in terms of a computer processing something, but imagine how much longer it would have taken me to watch and then advance 1 second, save, screenshot, then 1 second, screenshot, 1 second, screenshot, 1 second, screenshot. That would have taken me all day. I mean, that would have been completely impractical. So you should use tools whenever you can. Now, setting up ffmpeg on your computer can be tricky. If you have a Mac, the way to do it is with something called Homebrew. If you use Windows, there's something called Choco that can do something like that. All that's to say, it's a more advanced kind of thing. Like if you've never used a command line before, it is a lot to get into, and it can be very disorienting at first. I think it's good to know how that works, but I mean, pace yourself, right? If you would like that, if you would like to know how to do that, I'd be happy to walk you through it. It's just that it's going to be different for each of your computers probably, and so it really is more of a case-by-case kind of thing. But again, Homebrew, if you're on a Mac, that's the main one to work through. So let me show you what this produced when I ran ffmpeg earlier. This is in here. Let's see. Yeah, this is the one. So these are the full-size images that it produced, and if I double click on any of these, try to double click. What? Opening? Why is it taking so long to open? There we go. Okay, so there's Gregory Peck, and so this is an image that you can see is the full size of that of the resolution of this video. So it's 1280 by 720, which is a lot. Like, it's a pretty big image. So the thing I did before I shared it with you all is I made a version of these images that was much smaller. So what I zipped up and sent to you all was this folder here, Mockingbird frames, and each of these files is a lot smaller. Hopefully. I was actually rendering the thumbnails, that's why it's taking so long. I would rather it not do that, but I'm not sure I can stop it. Stop. Just trying to open the file. There you go. Okay, so this is from the opening credits, it looks like. So much, much smaller. So this is 512 by 288. And actually, what we'll find out, I think, is that that's plenty for the kind of thing we're going to be doing with it. We're not watching the movie, so we don't need to see it in glorious high resolution HD. We just need to just have the basic data of each frame, and that's all we need. Okay, so I uploaded this file. I zipped those together and I uploaded that. So this is the file that hopefully you've downloaded, mockingbirdframes.zip, and you will need to unzip it. And sometimes it's easy to miss this step. A lot of computers now, Mac and Windows alike, don't do a great job of helping you unzip things because they'll let you view the contents of a zip file without unzipping it, and you think you can work with it, but you actually can't because you haven't unzipped it yet. So make sure you've unzipped it. It'll look different on your computer because you have a different computer from me, but usually you just right click on it and then there's some kind of option like extract or open with a decompressor or something like that. So look for whatever option you need to extract here, or extract or something like that, or maybe extract ... And so, it's going to be, it may take a while. It's 7,753 files, and I don't even know where it's putting these. I wonder if it's overwriting those. I hope not. I'll just say cancel. Okay, but you should get a folder that says Mockingbird Frames, or it might extract it directly into the folder that it's in. Hopefully that's not. Hopefully you can figure that out. Basically, I say hopefully because it's your computer and you need to be able to work with it that way. Now, so if you just double clicked it, you might see something like this, and you might think, oh, here it is. Here's the folders that I need with the files I need. But actually, this is a preview. If you see a button anywhere that says extract or decompress, that means you haven't extracted it or decompressed it yet, and you need to do that before you can do anything else. So make sure you don't miss that step as far as that goes. Just bear in mind it will look different because you have a different computer than me. Okay, so ultimately though you should have, oh, I guess I did put it there. Ultimately you should have a folder with a bunch of files in it. Now, let's try to do some work with this. There are two kinds of things you can do with this, or two tools that I'm going to recommend you use for this. And one of them is I hope pretty accessible, and that's what I'm going to recommend first. It's a tool I made. It's accessible. It's a little clunky though, I will admit. So I'll share the link in Slack here in a moment, but it's zachwhalen.net/pg/imj, and this is linked from the module description. Let me just put this in here. Here's the link to my imj tool for you to try. The idea is use this to use this tool to analyze or do something with those 7,000 images from To Kill a Mockingbird. There are several things you can do here, and I'm going to try to do them on the stream. I say try because this may cause the stream to get laggy and glitchy, and we'll see how that goes. If it gets bad, let me know. Just post in the chat. But it should probably clear up after a minute or two once it catches up. But I don't know. We'll see. So here's how it works. Let me try it. So you go to Browse here, select multiple images. This works better. You can also upload a whole folder, but it works better this way, in my experience. And then click around until you find the folder that you're looking for, and it is this one in my case. Yeah, I'm just checking. These are the smaller file sizes. Now you want these to be in order. These are in reverse order at the moment, so I'm going to click that to make sure that they're showing in order. Again, your computer will look slightly different, but it should have the same capabilities of looking at a folder and then sorting correctly by file name. These are numbered in order. And then you need to select all of these. Sometimes this gets a little different depending on your computer, but what I can do here is I can click the first one and then scroll all the way down to the bottom one, hold Shift on my keyboard, and then click the last one, and now all of those are selected. So that will probably work on yours as well. You can also sometimes do Control A in a folder view like this and select all of them. Again, sometimes. A lot of this depends. So try this, try one or the other of these methods to select all of these. Now if you find, by the way, that this method like it hangs, it gets stuck. You can always do this with fewer than all of these. Like you could try this with maybe 100 images and see if that works. And you can do that simply by selecting a smaller section of these. But I'm going to go ahead and select all of them and hope for the best. So hit open. Now it's not actually loading these images onto my website. So if you look at it, it is hosted, this tool is hosted on zachwhalen.net, but all of the processing is happening inside the browser memory. So don't worry about uploading things and me having your content. Like I don't have it. It doesn't go to my website at all. It just stays on your computer and it's all being run inside of your browser memory. Okay, so if this were a real live class, I would be pausing and asking to make sure everyone at least got to this level, that you at least were able to load the images in here. So if you've gotten far enough along to run into a problem with this, this would be a great time to speak up and say that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead, bearing in mind that you'll have the archive of this video that you could watch later. But if you're having an issue getting these loaded in, now would be a great time to ask about that before I proceed. While you do that, I'm going to see what this mail is. Or while you think about that, let me see what this junk. It's probably junk mail. Oh yeah, I don't want that. Okay, yeah, I don't want that. That's junk mail. Okay, so it's one of these mail things that looks important, or like uses language to make it seem like it's actually a real important thing, but it's not. I mean, it's offering me a service I don't need. Okay, so this is actually, by the way, you will, because you now own a domain for yourself through us, through the website. You may start getting junk mail related to owning a website. If you recall the who is information, that has your school address on it, or our school has the school address on it. And so you will occasionally get snail mail, like letters from search engine marketing companies that will try to sell you. They'll say things like, pay us to get your site listed in Google and so on. Don't ever do that. Like, don't ever pay anyone to do anything for your website. You can do everything that they can do as far as getting your website to show up in Google. They can do nothing that you cannot do. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that you don't need to pay for that service. No search engines charge you to list your website in them. Like Yahoo, I mean, no legitimate ones anyway. There might be some sketchy ones, but Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo, Google, if you have a site on the web, it's going to show up on those search engines. So don't worry about that. Anyway, now we have some images and no one has reported any issues so far. I'm going to trust that means that you all have these images loaded or something like this, or you're okay with me proceeding, because I'm going to go ahead and do this. Okay, so we have three main sets of thing you can do with this tool. The first is a barcode, so I'll start with this. And I'm going to choose a couple of settings here. The way it calculates these off just the top is it gives you 1 pixel width of a barcode image for each image that it uploads. So I gave it 7,752 images, so it's going to try to create one image 7,752 pixels wide. I don't know, that'll probably work okay. But I'm going to try to make a small, well, maybe I should just let that run. I think that'll probably take less processing if I let it run at this size. And then it just calculates for the height, just a reasonable height based on whatever that width is. It just, it ballparks it. You can always, my thinking was you can always manipulate the dimensions of an image later. That doesn't matter too much. The smoothing, you probably don't want to do much with this, at least for the first try, because a lot of this is really color-based, and this is a black and white movie. So what this is going to do, instead of using an image and squishing it to 1 pixel wide, the smoothing here is going to take whatever the average color is and then make that 1 pixel wide rectangle. That's probably not going to be very interesting for this movie because it's mostly black and white. It is all black and white. So you'll see your average color will be different shades of gray, which is probably not super interesting, but we'll try it later. All right, so I'm going to try to apply these settings, and this is just letting me review this. There's very little to do here. I mean, this is very little to review. I mean, this is just the two options. And now I'm going to hit do the thing, and it's going to start working. Now, this is the point where it might get glitchy or laggy, so we'll hope for the best. But if it does get weird, it shouldn't last too long. So here we go. And oh, wow, that instantly crashed. It usually doesn't do that. Okay, great. Did anyone else get that? It usually does not crash that quickly. Usually it takes up some memory first. Huh. Okay, so I'm gonna try this in a different browser. Oh, I don't know what happened there. I'm gonna try it in Chrome. I developed this tool in using Chrome to test it, so it might work better in Chrome. I wonder if it just ran out of memory, because this is a lot. I mean, we're asking a lot of it. As I said, it took my computer like all morning to produce this. Where am I? Okay, Mockingbird. Smaller, and then if this also crashes, I'll try with a smaller number. Then we'll see how this goes. Sometimes it takes a few seconds. Okay, there we go. So I can see that all 7,752 images are loaded here. I'll leave these on the default again. And fingers crossed. Here we go. Okay, that's what's supposed to happen. So I don't know how the stream is doing, but this is what it's supposed to do. It's drawing a barcode left to right, creating a version of this image or this movie that lets us look at the whole thing at once. And I'm not going to say much while it's going, just because I think it might be, I don't know. You might not be able to see or hear me, so I don't know. I'll wait until this is done. Okay, thanks, Josh. I am still here, and you are too, I guess, because you commented. So, and this is almost done. Okay, so it's done. And now we have a different way of looking at this movie. Now, there are different things we could look at with this. Again, I don't remember if I've seen this movie, but looking at this barcode, I can tell a few things about it. We do have strong bands here vertically, probably for scenes that are night. This is probably a movie where the events take place over a few days, and so they probably follow the sequence. I mean, that's just kind of my very limited hunch. But it's also just kind of an interesting aesthetic object. Like, some people enjoy these enough that they make them their background images or other things with them. Now, to work with this or do anything else with it, you should save it. So I recommend right-click, Save Image As. You can also use this download button, although that doesn't always work for some reason. So just right-click, Save As. That works. Or, if you're really nervous about it, you can always take a screenshot of it the way it looks right now, and that also will be successful if you have, if you know how to take a screenshot on your computer. So I'm just going to save this, and that will let me look at it a bit later. And then I'm going to try a few other things. I'm hopefully saving this. What happened? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if you saw, but it's 25 megabytes. Like, it's a pretty big JPEG, or PNG. So it's it's a big image, and so you'll want to do some things with this image before you try to do anything like share it to your website. So you make sure you do that. If you have a Windows computer, right? I mean, you have Paint. If you have Mac, you have Preview, and you can pretty simply, with those tools, you can adjust these images to be much more reasonable, right? So this is a 21% zoom for this. So this image is actually enormous. This is way too big to upload to your website. So don't do that. Make sure you change it to a reasonable size using whatever tool you like to work with. I don't know if I can do that with this one. This is just an image viewer. But anyway, that's pretty good, right? I mean, that's something that looks kind of interesting already. And you can even zoom into different scenes. It looks like there's kind of a longer scene right here. because you see that sort of horizontal blurring. Okay, so that worked pretty well. Let's try a few other things. Now, I don't have to reload the images. They're already here. So I can go ahead and just switch to a different visualization tool. Let's try the montage. So this one is going to process these files, and it's going to make a montage view by stitching them together like a quilt pattern, and you'll see what I mean. I've got different options here. Each thumbnail, like each frame, is going to be 20 pixels wide in this view and then 16 pixels high. And 50 columns is how far it's going to go to the right before it goes down to the next row, and then keeps going like that. I'm going to go ahead and increase this number. 50 is usually pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead and try 100. None of those. 100. That should be a little bit. You know what? Actually, I'm going to go to 500 or 400. I'll do 400 and see what this looks like. And that should take about the same time as the barcode. It's a similar kind of processing where it's just sampling each image and then drawing it into a canvas in a particular place. And you know, the way I'm looking at that, I actually think I should have gone narrower. It's hard to stop it though, so I'm gonna let it complete. You can stop it, but it takes, you know, sometimes the browser doesn't like to let go of a process until it's really completed it. Don't know what my kids are yelling about. So I'm actually, yeah, I'm going to redo this one. Okay. I'm the only parent at home right now, so I have to keep an ear on different sounds that they're making or not making. So, okay, that looks like it's almost done, but I'm going to redo it. And it's the same kind of thing. If you like it, you can right-click Save As, or take a screenshot. Obviously, this was too wide to actually take a screenshot, but you know, you can make that work. Let's just do a 120. And this is still pretty wide, but not quite as ridiculous. That's still too wide. I don't like it. I think 50 should have gone lower. But you know, you can see that there's a different way of appreciating this movie if you do it this way. Could be interesting. All right, there's other things you can do too here with the montage thing, because this is literally just saying how wide is each of these images going to be, and then how far across can you go. You can do other things with this. Like you can actually change the settings here and generate a barcode. Like you could do 7752 number of columns. Thumbnail width is 1, and then thumbnail height is, I don't know, 300 or 3000, whatever. Like this would actually generate a very similar barcode with these settings if you wanted to do it that way. Or you can just do it, in fact, the kind of opposite way. So let's say we wanted to make this like a vertical, I guess, barcode. So now it's going to be making each image 640 pixels wide and 1 pixel tall, and then it's going to keep going this way. I'll wait until it's done with this particular montage. I mean, this one does look pretty cool. This montage I do actually like. You can see the ribbons of different scenes showing up this way. By the way, what I'm doing here, I'm just playing around with different settings to show you how they work. I hope you're doing the same thing. So, I mean, do the thing I'm drawing when I do it, or try some of these other settings and just see what happens. I'm going to explain them as they go, as I go. So you might want to just do what I do as I do it, but you know, whatever you feel like doing at this point. So let's try this view now. This is going to be kind of like a vertical barcode. It's going to be very, very tall now that I look at that. So it's going to be tall and skinny. So maybe let's make this wider. I'm really not sure what this is going to look like. Oh yeah, that's kind of ugly. So don't care for that, but we'll let it finish anyway. Kind of looks like the old, like, I don't know if you've ever experienced a TV that's not quite tuning into the station that you want to watch, or it looks like on cable TVs, it used to be if you didn't pay for like HBO or whatever, you would see it scrambled and it would look like this instead of whatever was actually on there. And you had to pay for the box to unlock that channel and decode it, and it would look like this until you did. So that's pretty cool, but kind of hard to make much sense of. I just zoomed out on this browser view so I could see more of it. Pretty neat though. We can actually start to see in scenes like this middle part where before I just saw like a horizontal blur, you can see actually a little bit more of actually what's there, because if it's a continuous shot, then you would see that same subject of the shot kind of in the same place here. So you almost draw them as you go down with this sort of view. Pretty neat. Yeah, almost done, and then I'll show you how to do the plot thing, and then we'll go on to text analysis. Okay, so pretty neat. So if you're working on this yourself, I'd like for you to share whatever you've been able to produce with Image here. There's different options you can do, and also it's pretty interesting sometimes to just try a smaller set of images from this, maybe 100 or maybe 10, and you can get some interesting things with that. So see what you can come up with. Like, I mean, you have a tool here that you can be creative with. This is a tool that's not, and most tools, they're not just going to answer your question. They're not going to just be like you dump something in and then it tells you what to think about it. Like, you have to try things out and you have to test your ideas and see what makes sense. And that's what we're doing as we play with it here. So do that playing with it and see what you can come up with. So the plot one, this one's probably not going to work as well. This works much better with color-based media. So if you have like a cartoon or something, this works better. But you can, it should work for this as well. So the main thing is, this is going to draw a canvas that's 800 by 600. It's going to be essentially a graph. And for each of these frames, it's going to draw a small version of them at 18 pixels by 14 pixels high. So it's going to put each of the frames, each of those 7,000, onto somewhere on this graph. And where it puts those is going to be based on what I set here for the X and the Y axis. So the X is going to be how far to the right is it. The Y is going to be how up or down is it. And these are the numbers that it can base that on. Each of these things are values that can be calculated. So you give the code that I wrote here an image, and it can tell you what is the average hue for that image, what is the saturation, the lightness, the value, and so on. You can also calculate the red, blue, and green, but since these are all black and white grayscale images, those are all going to be the same, so that's not going to be interesting. It is often interesting to plot on different color axes if you have color images. But let's do the other things. So let's just do lightness. What can we do here? Let me see. Lightness and value are basically the same thing. Let's do hue and just try hue and brightness. I don't know if this is gonna be interesting or not, and that's the point. Like, you try it out and see what happens. We don't have hue though, so that's not gonna work. So let's see. Saturation. That should work. Okay, let's try saturation. Let's do saturation and lightness. Let's see what this looks like. And it looks like it's putting them all in the same saturation. Okay, so that's not going to work. So the x-axis here is saturation. They're all being calculated with the same saturation. Saturation is how much color is there. And obviously these have no color in them, so that's not going to do any good. It is tricky to get a plot view that has... You know what, actually, I think I have some images I can do this with. I believe I do. So let me try this. I believe I did this earlier a little while ago with an episode of SpongeBob. So I figure out where I put that. Maybe I deleted it. Hang on a second. Give me a second here to find these. Sponge. Oh, you know what? I think I did that on an earlier version of this operating system. I think I had to wipe it all out and then try it again. So I think they're on this hard drive, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into it reliably, so I won't be able to do that, unfortunately. But it does look pretty cool when you can do those things. Probably not super interesting with black and white images, unfortunately. But let me just try a smaller set here and see if I can come up with something. Hue and brightness shouldn't do anything either, but let's just see. Yeah. That's not working. Yeah, there's really just so much you can calculate. Now, if I had a more robust software on the back end of this, something more intensive, it could do things like image complexity or contrast, things like that. But this is not really going to work, so oh well. All right, let me show you one other thing, and this is another kind of advanced thing that you will probably not want to try, but you might if you want to. There is a tool called ImageJ, and so what I have here, this is IMJ or IMG, and there is another tool that is much more powerful called ImageJ, and it's it does take some work to use. It's a Java application, and sometimes that alone makes it a little wonky to work with. I'll just show you kind of how to do it. The version, if you want to download it, that you should get is called Fiji. That's a distribution of it. The website is imagej.net, and I think I linked to that in the module description, but it is definitely more, it's a steeper learning curve, and to be honest, I only know how to do like one or two things with this tool. It's pretty wonky, it's pretty specialized. So what you do with this is you import some images, so you go to File, Import, what it calls an image sequence, and I don't want to import all these right now. I wonder, can I select? Can I do a multiple select here? No, I can't. So yeah, I don't want to do that because that would take forever. But once you have that, then what you can do, and I can't show you this in real time, but because this actually took about an hour, you can do what's called a Z project, and that's where it stacks the images coming toward you. And I did that earlier today with To Kill a Mockingbird. So let me show you what it looks like. It was pretty interesting. So there's a couple of different ways you can have it stack. You can give it different algorithms to stack with. If you just ask it to do the average, so just take an average of each, like thinking vertically, go pixel by pixel, and for each image, calculate each pixel's value, and then just add that to the total stack at that pixel coordinate, and then compute the average of that, and then you get this kind of view, and it's completely uninteresting. So this is literally just a gray image. There's a slight bit of variation in it in the middle, but very slight. You can barely see it. So this is not interesting at all, this particular one. Now, if you think of it in terms of, if you think of like what a color is, so this is what it calls a standard deviation. I'm not sure, I haven't seen the actual algorithm for this, but I think this is a really interesting image if you think of this as a composite of To Kill a Mockingbird, because you can see a lot in this. You can actually see shapes start to emerge. It looks sort of like smoke, and there are certainly some figures in here. There is a person here on the top left, kind of a head right here, shoulders, hands. That image is echoed back here with a very similar looking individual in a similar pose. Again, I don't know how this algorithm arrived at that, but it's really interesting to see that kind of sneaking out of that, kind of peeking back at us. So that one's good. The other one, the sum calculation is similar in that you can see that ghostly figure here a little bit on the left. So now I want to watch the movie and kind of pay attention to when that figure shows up. I don't know, maybe that's Atticus, maybe it's the judge, I don't know. But at some point, or at several points within this movie, there were a person at that place in the shot for a significant number of seconds, and that's why that shows up. Otherwise, all the other shapes get kind of merged together into this kind of ghostly echo of it, but pretty cool. And this is, again, this is ImageJ, and ImageJ is a tool with a lot in it, but also it takes a lot to work with it. I'll show you that step again, and like, if you would like to do this, I'd be happy to help you with it, but it's basically just you import those, and then you go to Image, Stacks, and Z Project, and then you choose some options there and let it run. It does take a while. I had to increase the memory access on this software. I had to give it 12 gigabytes to work with of RAM, which is a lot, and it did complete eventually. It crashed after it first ran because it got up to 6 gigabytes, and that wasn't enough, so I doubled that, and it was able to complete. So there we go. Now, if you would like some help with that, I'd be happy to walk you through it. You kind of have to have your images already extracted, and then I can show you that. But I would say try image first, IMJ. That's the thing to do first. Also, by the way, like if you have a movie, let's say, or a group of videos that you want to work on, and you want to extract frames from them. This is, of course, if you're doing the image visualization module. You may have chosen not to do that, and that's fine. But if you are choosing it and you do want to do that extraction step, I'd be happy to help and maybe even do that for you, because it takes a lot of setup if you're not used to doing it for the first, like the first time you do it, it takes a lot of setup. I already have my workflow for that set up, and it's pretty easy for me to do. So if that's the case, let me know. Just another quick command line tool. If you do find a YouTube video, there's a command line tool you can use to download YouTube videos. There's like browser plugins you can do too, but and they essentially do the same thing. But let's say you wanted to get this one, block, the hello machine. What is this? All right. Yeah, thank you, algorithm, for sharing this weird thing with me. So YouTube DL, and then you paste the URL that you copied, and then it'll download this video to your computer, and then you can extract the frames from this video if you want to do that. Okay, I know I'm moving kind of quickly. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on time, and I want to make sure to talk about text analysis as well. So I just downloaded this movie, and I can work with it if I'd like, and that's how quick it goes if you have it already set up. If you'd like, I can show you how to set up YouTube DL. But let's take a look at text analysis, because that's the other thing on the agenda for today. I'm going to actually close out Chrome, and I'm going to switch back. No, I'm not going to switch back. I'll just leave Firefox here for a minute, and you can still see that, right? So text analysis, this is, I've prepared a plain text version of To Kill a Mockingbird, and I just was hesitating a bit because I just noticed some errors in it. So we need to talk about text and what that is. Whenever you write a document in Google Docs or Microsoft Word, you're actually writing something called rich text. Like when you type a key on your keyboard, it's usually not going to be literally that number assigned to that letter. It's going to be something else. So it's going to be a set of things that also dictate not just what letter it is, but how it looks, what font it is, size, color, and all that. That's called rich text. In order to work with and process text files, we have to make it plain text first, or vanilla ASCII text is another way to talk about it. And that's what I have here. This is, I've done that conversion, but you can see that there's a problem with it. If you look through it, you can see that here it says, when it healed and Jim's fears, something's happened here to this character. That's because that there's a character there, probably a curved apostrophe, that falls outside of the ASCII range of the number letter space. So in olden times, that was you had up to 128 things you could type as and store as a character in computer memory. Now we have many, many more. But when we're talking about plain text, it needs to be in that range if possible. So the way to fix this is I use a tool called Sublime Text. It's a plain text editor, but it's also a code editor. And yesterday I showed you briefly the code editor on the file manager on UMW domains. This is like that, but much more robust and obviously like on my computer, so I can do things with it. So if you look through this copy of this file, you can see the problem here too. It just doesn't show up the same way. This is that same sentence, Jim's fears. You see that is, I don't know if maybe you can't see it, but it's a directional, a curved apostrophe. So that's going to show up kind of weirdly. Now, there is another way to type this and express it just as clearly for us to read, and that's just the straight up and down apostrophe. And this one is a valid ASCII character. So what we want to do is a find replace that takes all of these and switches them into those. So let me do that. Now I'm going to re-upload this file into Canvas, and if you've already started working with it, that's fine, but you might get a few different results because of that. So let's just do this here. Find and replace all of those. Great. Now I'm going to skim through here and see if there's any others. I did already do some of this typographic cleanup, but I missed these characters, so I'm going to go ahead and see if there's another one. The other one that you'll see a lot is an in dash. Those are harder to spot, but then you'll also see these directional quote marks. Yeah, these are, I need to get these out too. So we want those to be straight up and down quote marks. Oh, wait. Oh, man. No, not 94 files. What? What is that doing? Hey, hold on. I don't want to do it across all files. Let's just do that one. Okay. And then there are two directions for those quotes, so I'll get the other one too. I can't remember the, oh, it's Control H. I was looking for the wrong, typing the wrong shortcut. Okay. So that's probably good enough. Okay, and really, it may not actually make a difference as you load it into Voyant tools, but it might, and so I wanted to make sure to get that right. Okay, so this is to say that if you want to do text analysis for your module, then you should make sure that the file you're working with is a cleaned up plain text ASCII file. And if you're not sure how to do that, you can send it to me and I can check. But basically, if you get weird results in Voyant, that might be why. Okay, so Voyant tools, voyant-tools.org. This is next. I'm going to. I'll just paste it to explain it. Voyant-tools.org. So Voyant Tools is meant to be an easy way into text analysis. It's meant to be a gentle introduction to it by way of lots of tools. So now that I have this plain text version of To Kill a Mockingbird on my computer, I'm going to upload it here. You can go to Upload and I have to find it. Where did I put that? There it is, To Kill a Mockingbird.txt. Open that and then upload. And here we go. So yeah, that's it. That worked pretty well. I showed you this a little bit yesterday. The term distribution is kind of interesting. When you looked at it the other day, when I was looking at the Jane Austen corpus, each of these segments that you see here were a different book. But since I just uploaded one book here, Voyant has divided this into an arbitrary 10 segments. And you can still see, so when we look at how one of these things change over time, you can see like it is the course of that over the book. So the word said is relatively frequent and stays about the same frequency overall. Like it doesn't really change a whole lot. There's up and downs, but not too bad. Mr., that's a really interesting spike around segment 7. Like, I don't know what's going on in that segment, but I would imagine that a particular character shows up. So you can click on this and you can see what's going on. That ma'am, that's my name, Captain said the witness. So it looks like this might be the trial, and so that might be why people are using more formal language like Mr. and so on in that particular case. Let's try Miss. Let's see. Miss has, well, it's kind of a bump, but not quite as much. So that's interesting. There's a bump near the beginning and near the end. But a relatively smooth change throughout the middle. That's kind of interesting. So Jem, that's a character's name, right? So these are things that we're interested in. We can also, if there's a word we know about that we're interested in this book, we can type this here and see how it's distributed throughout the book. Scout is the narrator, so we can see where her name shows up. That's pretty interesting. So as you've seen over here too on the word cloud, we can start to see the things pop out, and it's the same top words that we saw over here on the right, but Dill, what is Dill? Is that a character's name? It's been so long since I've read this, I don't remember. You can see how these things show up, and that can be revealing. Now, this could also be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense like we already know this is a book with a character named Atticus, and so seeing Atticus and Jem as two giant words on this word cloud doesn't tell us something we didn't already know. So what we can do is actually take those out. If you click on this options button, this is like the on-off looking button, you can add these words to the list of words that are being ignored, and those are called stop words. So if you hit edit list, let's say I don't really need to see Jem or Atticus or said. Somebody's doing something right above me, and it's distracting me. Hopefully, it's not coming through too much on the microphone with her. There's a chair there, and somebody's in that chair reading a book, I think, and they're rocking with the chair, and it's making some noise. Anyway, so now we see, taking those out, we see a much more even distribution of some of the words. Mr. and Miss are still very big, but now we can see a lot of words, and a lot of dialogue kind of words, like ain't and he's. These are words that show up in speech. So this is, at this level, I can tell that this is a very, like, speech-oriented book, like a very dialogue-heavy book. Other things you can do, this, by the way, this is a bit more interesting if you have multiple books or like 2 books that you want to compare. Sometimes taking 2 books from the same year or 2 books by the same author can be interesting, because then you can compare how that author's style has changed, or how 2 different authors writing at the same time were writing in different styles. Lots of things you can try. But what I want you to do is try this out with To Kill a Mockingbird, and try out some of these different visualizations or different things you can do with it. And if you find an interesting one, then share it. Likewise with the image thing, if you come up with when you complete one, any visualization, please share it in Slack so we can see what you come up with. Just upload the file. Likewise in here, let's try correlations. I don't really know. This one's going to be a table, not super interesting to look at, but you know what? Let's find a visualization tool. These will be more interesting. Let's try. Textual arc is pretty cool, but. Word tree, what does this do? A lot of these I really don't understand what they're doing. Let's try links. I don't know what this is. Okay, great. So this looks cool. You don't always have to understand what it is, at least for today, certainly. So share it if you think it looks neat, if you like the way it looks. So click on, to share it, you click on the export button, which looks like the arrow going out of a box button here. And it works a little better if you export a PNG and then right click, save image, and then that's the image. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, so this is a transparent PNG, and that's a better way to save an image. You can also take a screenshot of it. If you do the version where you share it and then you share the URL HTML snippet, this does usually work okay, but it can be unreliable, like it doesn't always work, and sometimes it will stop working unexpectedly. So this is such a small window, I can't even find the URL. Yeah, this, you can also just load the URL directly for this particular thing. So yeah, there you go. Very small, but it works. Let's see what happens if we add this up. Oh, neat. We can make this bigger. Huh. Okay, cool. So play around with it, see if you find something you like, and then share it. And even if you don't totally understand what it's doing, just share it. I mean, this is mainly to practice the process, like the workflow of download something, upload it to Voyant, share it. And that's something that you should be thinking about if you're doing a text analysis project. Hopefully you'll have a different book to study, or several to compare, but that's the basic process of it. Okay, so I forgot to switch over my subheading to, well, I'm still, yeah. I'm running out of time, but I was going to talk about more HTML stuff, but I've gone on too long. This is already just about an hour long, so I'm not going to be able to talk about anything new with HTML. I just want to add a couple of thoughts, and I don't know if anyone's still watching, but these are the thoughts. W3 Schools versus Codecademy. Which one do you like? Which one's working better? Let me know. I mean, talk about it in the Slack. I want to hear your thoughts, both because I like to know what works and what doesn't, but also I think they work differently for different people. So I'm curious to hear you reflect on that and take note of what's working for you. Keep moving with each of them, or with either of them. So pick which one you like and keep going with it. Many people like one and don't like the other, and it's about 50-50 in my experience. So just pick whichever one you like and keep moving ahead with that. Remember, your goal is going to be to complete a web page on your own. So keep going until you feel like you have enough to do that. I can give you some more specific kind of things to try to get to, but I'll have to save that for tomorrow. And I think tomorrow probably will be focusing pretty much all on HTML. So keep moving on your own, but I will also do some of that tomorrow, and hopefully it'll help out and make sense to you. But for today, also try to get a image visualization done and share that in Slack. Try to get some kind of visualization done with Voyant and share that in Slack. I want to see what you're coming up with. Just share this in general chat, in the general chat channel. That'd be fine. Again, it's really just to test and practice the workflow. If you are working on a totally different project for your module work, that's of course fine. But I want all of you to at least try this part of it out. Okay, so I am going to wrap it up, and I will see you all again tomorrow. I think tomorrow I will focus on the web page stuff, the HTML stuff. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions about all this, please ask. I would love to help you figure out how to do these things, or if you get stuck, help you get unstuck. I will write some instructions and add them for the notes today, and also embed the video once it's archived.
Almost done?
Yeah, I'm almost done. What's all over your face? Did you get in the chocolate? Okay, he got the chocolate chips. Okay, did you get in the chocolate chips? Oh man, come on. Okay, I gotta go. Bye.